All I have to say is my chicken is for dinner, and they come running. But what they don't know is that it's good for them too. That's because Springer Mountain Farms chicken contains no antibiotics or additives, which makes it healthy and tasty. But don't take my word for it. Some of the nation's top chefs serve and list Springer Mountain Farms chicken on their menus.
American Humane Certified, raised without antibiotics, pure Springer Mountain Farms chicken.
So good, and so good for you.
Why do we cook? We cook for food, for family, and for friends. We cook to bring people together.
Honey, that looks good. Pardon my fork.
David, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing fantastic, man. Thanks so much for calling in. The sandwich winner for 2018. $10,000 winner, by the way.
Yes.
It is not something that I would have expected from your resume, quite frankly. You have got a very eclectic resume. No, I take that back. I should have expected exactly that in pretty much any category that you were cooking in.
Oh, thank you.
I'll tell you, buddy, you're all over the place. First and foremost, I am curious how you ended up with your golden ticket in the sandwich category.
Well, we did a competition in Indianapolis, and that's kind of how I got the ticket. Last year, I competed in the burger category, and I think we ended up third. So we were automatically qualified for that one. And then we got a golden ticket and wound up in the sandwich category for this year.
Now, how does that work? Because you are automatically given another entry into burger because you're in the top 10, but then you also got a golden ticket for sandwich. At that point, could you kind of take your choice?
Yeah, that was kind of the choice. We decided to go with sandwich. We also have a concept. It's called the High Point Burger, and we do a lot of crazy sandwiches and hamburgers and stuff like that. So it just kind of made sense.
Sure. Yeah, that does make sense. Okay. All right. So yeah, you found yourself with basically a second entry into the World Food Championships, and you went with sandwich. And tell us a little bit about that sandwich lineup, because you did 3, right? You did your signature and you did your structured.
Right.
And what were those?
Let's see. I believe the first one was a muffaletta sandwich. Okay. And I just kind of got the best ingredients, traditional muffaletta, made a really nice relish. And I think what kind of set it apart was I took the focaccia bread and cut each side in 2 and made grilled cheese sandwiches for the top and the bottom. And I think that we wound up with a really good score for that one.
Oh, how do you not? Yeah.
Yeah. It was a good looking sandwich.
Do you know how that fared with the judging? Do you know what place you entered the top 10 in?
I think after the first round, we were sitting in second place, if I remember correctly.
That's pretty impressive, man, because I got to be honest, a muffaletta, that's not a sandwich that everyone's going to just dive headfirst into. I think it's the olives a lot of time that kind of people find polarizing with it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's definitely how you want to do your relish. I mean, some are a little spicier than others. Mine was it was visually appealing, I think, because I made it very colorful, a little more on the sweeter side. But yeah, I didn't want to go too far outside the box on it.
Mm-hmm. You can't with that kind of competition. People will get in trouble because they'll go way outside the box, and then when it gets in front of the judges, they're like, "What is this?"
Yeah, I mean, either it's going to be a hit or a big miss. So, I mean, you're really taking a chance,
Mm-hmm. And then that was the burger that got you into the top 10, basically, right?
Yeah, that was the one that got us in for the sandwich.
And then what did you guys do for your top 10 entry?
Man, I don't even remember. Oh, well, that was the Cuban Reuben. The Cuban Reuben was the one that won it. That was the final round.
Cuban Reuben. Okay, so a Reuben sandwich done in a Cuban style.
Yeah, well, it was pretty much the best of both sandwiches put together, and then again, I also did the 2 grilled cheese on the top and the bottom, and Coop's mustard, sauerkraut, Swiss, smoked pork, ham, and of course pastrami.
That is really interesting, man. And then were you using like a panini press to make it, or did you just grill it?
Yeah, we just did it in a pan, actually. A little bit of butter and toasted them off real nice. Kind of pre-made the grilled cheeses and assembled it and finished it in the oven to get everything all melted up. I gotcha.
Yeah. You know what? That's smart too, because I was kind of sitting there thinking, if you're using grilled cheese sandwiches for a Cuban, I feel like if you put it in a press, you would lose a lot of that cheese, or you'd compress the grilled cheese sandwiches too much. But since you just grilled it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Is that kind of the thought process behind not using a press on it?
Yeah. Yep. Well, we wanted the outside to be golden brown, but we didn't want to smash it. We wanted everything to be seen, to be represented in the sandwich, visually.
Boy, and you crushed it too. I mean, that sandwich obviously was the standout because it took you all the way to the top. I'll tell you what, not everyone entering the top 10 gets like the feeling that, oh, this is the one that's going to win, but some people do. Where were you kind of landing on that? Did you have this instant feeling of like, oh yeah, this sandwich is the one?
No, not at all. I kind of decided on it the night before. And the name works. I think the naming of your sandwich helps a little bit. As well as having a good looking sandwich and it tastes good. But I thought it was maybe too simple. You never know. It's like sometimes you feel real good about something and you wind up dead last, and you doubt yourself on some things and it turns out really well. And that's kind of where I was on this one.
Yeah, it's so weird how that works out, man. I mean, everybody seems to say much the same thing. I've talked to a couple of different food champs now that have talked about how they didn't have a final or a top 10 dish prepared. They didn't even know what they were going to do because they had no anticipation of even going to the top 10.
Right. Well, you want to have something in the back of your mind, but when it actually happens and you're in the top 10, you're like, you kind of second guess yourself, I guess, a little bit, because you really want to win, but you don't want to get too hopeful.
At a certain point, you have to just let go and let whatever happen. Some people do. I think lottery winners often say, when I won, I could just feel it. This was the one. But I don't talk to a lot of food competitors that are that way. It's always a surprise where they land. Right.
Yeah. You never know. You never know what kind of judges you're going to get or what they're looking for. I mean, it's kind of a roll the dice situation, make a decision and stick to it.
Yeah, that is a fact. You don't have control over it the way you do with a restaurant, opening your own restaurant, opening your own business. No. And I'll tell you,
it's kind of blind.
That's actually where I wanted to take this conversation a little bit. Now that we know who you are and what you did at the WFC, let's roll this back a little bit, because I don't know if everyone realizes how accomplished a chef and a restaurateur you are. I mean, looking at your resume, I was very surprised.
Yeah, I've been a chef for a long time, and I've worked with some really some of the best chefs in the world. I travel a lot and I read a lot constantly, always studying. And yeah, it's just, I think I got a pretty good range of experience, professionally.
What are you reading right now?
see. What did I just get? Oh, I usually buy books. I mean, Amazon has been the greatest thing for buying books for me. I mean, I get like 10 at a time. Let's see. One of my favorites right now is a book called Pickles, Pigs, and Whiskey. That's a good one. Just got a bunch of books on Cajun Creole cuisine, obviously. Brushing up on that. Yeah, I've got all kinds of books.
Well, I like that Pickles, Pigs, and Whiskey. That is right up my alley.
Yeah. Obviously, I have a lot of barbecue books and Southern cooking and just all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Because your place that you're in right now, Sugarfire Smoke House, that's a little bit of a concept restaurant, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. So we're a smokehouse. And we kind of draw from the best barbecues across the country. And then we get really creative with our sides. You know, we have the standard barbecue sides like baked beans, coleslaw, potato salad, but we give all of our chefs just free range. Just, you know, as long as it looks good, tastes good, just go for it.
I like that. If you have faith in your chefs and what they're doing, then you can really let them roam like that. And really, I would argue that that's when you get some of your best stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And they feel like they're really part of the process and they're really involved and hands-on, and it keeps them interested. You know, when you give someone creative kind of free range, it just keeps them more engaged.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And it makes me think that you, with your diverse culinary background, let me put it that way, it actually makes me wonder where you got your start. Were you kind of a foodie kid, or is this something that you grew into in adulthood?
No, I've always enjoyed food, mostly for my mother and my grandmother. They were always cooking. Yeah, and I actually started, you know, working in the pantry station at a seafood restaurant, and then I really got hooked on it, and I just kind of wanted to do more and more and more and more.
How old were you at that point when you got your first job?
Let's see, I was probably 19, 20.
Oh yeah. After high school, you're kind of trying to figure out who you are and where you're going.
Right. Yeah.
I gotcha. I feel that, man. See, I started in a restaurant when I was 12. It was my parents. And
right.
I ended up not staying in food. But I often wonder, like, if I hadn't, you know, had that early experience, if I had gotten into food later in my life, would it be a career path for me? Right.
Yeah, I kind of feel like I got a late start, you know. Most of my friends started, you know, 15, 16 years old, washing dishes or stuff like that. So I kind of feel like I got a little bit later jump on it.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever feel like you experienced the burnout that can sometimes happen locally rather than, you know, completely in a career? But maybe that has a little something to do with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, you're running kitchens or you're cooking or whatever, that the hours are insane. And burnout happens all the time, but it's just gets how you handle it.
Ooh, that's a good way of putting it. I like that.
Yeah. Some people undo themselves, you know, they crack, and, you know, you just got to stay focused, keep rolling.
Mm-hmm. That is a fact. So when you first started out in the culinary world, did you really have an expectation of taking it to this level?
Oh, no, I didn't at all. I wasn't looking that far in the future. No.
Yeah. It was just kind of a job, I take it.
Well, it was a job, and it was, you know, it was a passion of mine, but as far as, you know, owning and operating restaurants, that I don't think that was even on my radar.
I suppose it never really is for folks. I mean, it can be. You know, I've heard interviews with people who said that they started on a specific career path because they had this very end goal in mind. But
right.
You having kind of built it more organically, especially looking at everything you're doing, I'm getting way ahead of myself. Let's roll this back a little bit, because you first started out 18, 19 years old, and you have gone all over the place and worked. So what was your next move past that first job?
Let's see. That first restaurant, we expanded and opened a new location, much bigger. And I was part of that opening, and that was pretty eye opening to see how that whole process works. You know, setting up a brand new kitchen, getting your equipment in, and designing a menu. That was, I mean, that probably really got me going right there.
Yeah, seeing that back into the operation.
Right. Yeah, it was just kind of more behind the scenes type thing, just seeing how things work. But I think food wise, I just picked up one day and moved to Nashville, Tennessee, and I worked at this place called Boundary in Midtown. And the chef there was incredible, and I was really exposed to high volume. I mean, foods I'd never even seen before from all over the world.
Was that kind of in the name, Boundary, as in like no boundaries?
Yeah. It was global cuisine. Nothing was off limits. Huge menu. It was a big restaurant. It was the hot spot in Nashville at the time.
And how many dishes were you cooking in a service?
Oh, I couldn't even tell you. Hundreds and hundreds.
Hundreds, yeah.
Yeah. We had everything on the menu. I usually worked on the grill station, and everything from smoked pork chops, chicken, ostrich, lamb, 4 different kinds of steaks, fish. I mean, and it changed every day. So it was really cool.
Wow. The rotating menu can really help or hurt. It's kind of polarizing in that way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we did specials every day, and we would have, the chef would print it out every day, and we would have probably 10 to 12 different small plates and 5 to 7 different entrees, and they changed every single day. So it was cool because you got to learn new stuff. You never got tired of cooking the same things, and then seeing new ingredients all the time. I mean, that was pretty eye opening.
That restaurant sounds like it just kind of became a honing steel for you.
Yeah, I mean, it was great.
Do you have any favorite recipes that you cooked there that you've kind of held on to later in life?
I wouldn't say recipes, but I would just say maybe more different techniques that I learned, handling so many different types of foods and proteins and all that.
Well, surely there has to be like a protein that you now prefer working with because you enjoyed it so much working there, right?
Yeah. I mean, I love cooking fish.
Really?
Yeah, I love cooking fish. I think there's a nice, there's a finesse to it. Yeah, it's good. Not everyone can do it, I don't think. Not well.
I see. So what you like about cooking fish is that there's a nuance to it that you figured out.
I think so.
I like that. It helps you kind of feel like you're highlighting your skills.
Well, I'm not claiming to be a master at it, but I think I'm pretty good at it.
No, I can dig it. I can dig it. I had an experience here not too long ago cooking swordfish, and I felt like that was entirely different than the mahi-mahi that I usually cook or the rockfish that I usually cook,
Oh,
and,
yeah, absolutely.
So I'm feeling what you're saying. Definitely. I have a few of those experiences where I'm like, that didn't cook quite the way I thought it would.
Yeah. Yeah. I love cooking things over open fire.
Yes.
I think that's kind of a lost art a little bit.
Are you doing that right now at Sugarfire?
At Sugarfire, no. Most of our stuff is smoked. We're a big smoke house, but we do lots of events across the country, and we kind of like to do open fire cooking, and just something different than everyone else is doing.
Oh, I see. Where did you find the love for open fire cooking then?
I don't know. There's just something about it, building a fire and figuring out how to cook something over it and you're not charring it, you're cooking it right. I want to say not charring it, but you're not burning it. And there's a lot of technique to it.
Oh, yes.
I'm a big fan of this guy named Francis Mallman. And he does a lot of open fire cooking, and I think he lives in Argentina. He used to be a really high-end chef, and I think in Germany. And then he just woke up one day and said, "What am I doing?" And he just went back to the basics.
I know exactly what you're talking about. They did a Chef's Table episode on Netflix, right?
Oh, they did. Oh, cool. I'll check that out.
I'm almost positive they did. Yeah. And it's all about the live fire. I ask because I'm a huge fan of live fire cooking. Like I love, cooking over either fire or of course like open coals, or starting my fire in the morning and having it burn down to coals as I sip my coffee and then cooking over it for lunch. I'm a huge proponent of that. I love that, man. Matter of fact, I'm not quite done with it yet, but I have mostly built Santa Maria grill sitting over by my shop that I need to finish up and get some fire break inside of. So,
oh, cool.
Yeah, you and I are simpatico on that, man. Not enough people, I feel like, really get to experience the live fire and over the fire cooking in the way we used to.
Yeah, and it's just a different taste. It's just different. I don't know. It's just, it's better flavor. I mean, it's just simple: salt, pepper, some oil, and just let the fire do the work.
Mm-hmm. For me, it also feels like a connection to the history of humanity. It hasn't been that long ago that we stopped cooking over an open fire. I mean, how long has natural gas been around? I don't think it's been 100 years yet, and electric stoves even less than that. And so this idea that we're not cooking directly over a wood-fired or coal-fired oven or an open fire, it's a relatively new concept for humanity.
Right. But I think a majority of the people that cook they would be lost trying to cook over an open fire,
This is true, but some people might argue that that's how society is getting lost. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, serious.
Yeah, I like that. You were finding some serious common ground on that, man. So how long did you work at Boundary?
I was there maybe a year and a half. And then I had an opportunity to go open a restaurant with my buddy, Mike Johnson. And he brought in his friend to be the head chef, who had just come from France, from working with Paul Bocuse in France. And so he opened this little French-Italian place.
Yeah, French-Italian, called Figaro, right?
Figaro, yes.
Yeah, man. I want to hear all about Figaro. We do have to take a real quick break, but I want you guys to stick around and stay tuned, because David Molina is just now getting revved up. We're going to talk about the rest of what he's been up to, and we're going to get into some smoking and barbecue talk in the second half of the show. So, listeners, stay tuned. We will be right back with the sandwich world champion from 2018, David Molina. Natural tableware. Let's face it, plastic pollution is endangering our environment as millions of tons of plastic end up in our ocean every year. They believe that they can stop this with our help. Natural Tableware is on a mission to push for sustainable change and providing you with compostable, single-use alternatives to traditional plasticware. Natural Tableware is known for their high-quality standards, designed to exceed the expectations of their customers and end users. and they're sourced and manufactured under fair trade and sustainable conditions. These all-natural alternatives provide the solution to plastic pollution. Visit naturaltableware.com today. The World Food Championships invite you to visit your local Walmart today. Check out their ever-expanding selection of the highest quality ingredients for your family and friends. Save money, live better with Walmart. And we are back with David. Hey, you were just telling us about the first restaurant you opened called Figaro.
Yes.
So I get the French and Italian concept. I don't think that people from France or chefs from France, should I say, and chefs from Italy are probably super happy about you joining the two. Am I wrong?
Yeah, probably.
What was the idea behind that? Why go the two different? Well, they're not different. I mean, France and Italy are I would say that their cuisines border each other. But how did you guys come up with the idea to infuse them?
You know what? I don't know. I can't answer that question. That was more of Mike's concept. I don't know. You know what? I never even asked him that all these years.
It's probably just the weird way my brain thinks because I'm instantly thinking about the Italian and French chefs I've talked to. And then talking to them about this.
The French probably came in more because of our chef that we had.
Right, the classical training.
Yeah, I mean, coming straight from Paul Bocuse, and I think he worked for Hubert Keller in San Francisco, and just all these incredible places. That was probably where that influence came in.
I gotcha. Yeah. Now, I feel like I just realized I might have skipped over something. Did you go to culinary school?
No, I did not.
So you're self-taught?
Yeah. Well, I've had a lot of good teachers. And like I said, reading is kind of, I think, really helped me out. My love of cookbooks. So, yeah, but no, I did not go to school. I thought about it for a minute, and then I was like, I'm getting the greatest experience, out here on the road. Why would I stop and go to school?
I could not agree more. Really, truly, I could not agree more. People need to be more acutely aware of whether or not they're going to learn in a classroom or learn on the job.
I would hire someone with good experience over, I think, someone with a piece of paper, a degree. I think any day. Yes,
I'm glad you're saying that, and I really do hope that if there are any aspiring chefs out there listening to this, they really take that to heart, because you're looking at someone who is, you can admit you've been quite successful in your field, and not having any quote unquote formal training, that speaks volumes.
Yeah. Well, if you got a desire to learn, and, in hindsight, when I was younger, I would have picked up and just started traveling and, bounced around Europe or South America or wherever, and just, go out and get your butt kicked for 10, 12 years, Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that's the best education you can get, especially when it comes to food.
Absolutely. Yes. That hands-on experience when you're cooking, it's invaluable.
Yeah, absolutely. The repetition and everything. I mean, sometimes it seems pretty mundane, but there's a reason you do something 5,000 times. You're going to get pretty good at it.
Yes, that is a fact, man. And it sounds like, once you guys started this Figaro endeavor, you were obviously cooking as well. Your buddy brought in a chef, but I'm sure you were in the kitchen cooking as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was just a cook. I didn't own the place. I wasn't a manager. I was just a cook. I was just there cranking it out every day.
Well, a good chef needs the sous chefs. Everyone needs a line cook in a restaurant.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. And so that became another chapter of your education, it sounds like to me.
Well, yeah, I think everything everything you do becomes important to what you become, even if you hate it at the time or whatever. I think it's all important.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
Learn what to do and what not to do. So,
well, do you feel like once you hit Figaro and you started working with this chef, that, am I understanding this correctly, he had more of a French influence from his background?
Yeah, absolutely.
So as you started cooking with him, and I mean, people always talk about the French style of cooking, and especially when they're talking about culinary arts degrees, a French, like a Le Cordon Bleu, degree or training or something like that. A lot of people talk about that with a revere. And so now you're in this space and you're cooking with this chef that is classically trained in the French cuisine. And do you feel like you started just gleaning stuff off of him?
I definitely learned a lot, for sure. I mean, this guy's presentations and his, classical sauces, and I mean, I learned a lot from him.
Oh, the presentations. You know what? That's not even something that I had thought about. Oh,
they were insane. I mean, I would say overkill, but, that's just the way he wanted it.
Mm-hmm. It always feels like overkill until you're in that situation and you're going, my customers, I want them to have this as a really memorable experience. And one of the easiest way to do that is to make the plate very pretty. I mean, as well as making the food taste good. But the weird thing is like, I can get a plate thrown in front of me, and while it tastes very good, if it just absolutely looks like slop, I'll still have kind of a hard time getting into it. That visual, what we see on the plate affects our taste.
It just puts it over the top,
Mm-hmm. In the WFC, they allot 15% of your total score to the visual. And I always found that interesting, because if you lose all your points on that visual, you're not going anywhere anyways, because at that upper echelon of competition, 15 points will break you.
Right.
But I always find it interesting because people say, when you're in this timed competition, don't spend too much time making it pretty, but you do have to spend some time making it pretty.
No, you absolutely do. Yeah. I mean, they set it down in front of the judges, and of course, they look at it first. I mean, it's the first impression.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You've got me thinking now, because I'm sitting here thinking what a French and Italian dish would look like. And I'm just thinking like, okay, is it, a spoonful of spaghetti rolled up on a large soup spoon, and then, a drizzle of oil, and maybe like, what's that technique called where you take the backside of a spoon and you do like the teardrop smear?
Oh, I was just gonna say that. We were up to our eyeballs. We're up to our eyeballs in quenelles. Yeah. Oh man, everything had to be in a quenelle. Oh, it's crazy.
That's so funny. For the people at home, can you describe a quenelle?
Quenelle is like a 3-sided football that you make with 2 spoons, and you just kind of dish whatever and kind of scoop it out and form this 3-sided football.
It's a really interesting concept. It's an interesting way to look at it. And I'm really honestly hoping that someone with a classical French training background is hearing you say 3-sided football and just losing their mind.
Oh, yeah, they're probably cursing me right now, but that's the best way I can describe it on the telephone.
That's super funny. I'm actually glad that you described it that way. I think there's a perfect description for that.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be lost for words trying to find a different way to tell you what that is over a telephone.
That's right. And when you were working there and working with this classically trained chef, I mean, was he going through the terminology? Was he kind of breaking down why you do these things? No?
No. You were an idiot because you didn't know what he was talking about.
Yeah. That's about what I would expect.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
So you learned how to work with difficult people in that restaurant.
Oh yeah.
How long were you there?
I was there a year, and then we opened a Spanish tapas place a couple blocks over. So I went over and ran that, and I was there for almost 10 years.
Oh, wow. So that was your big leap.
Yeah, I mean, that was probably my longest stint. It was probably, I think it was there 9-10 years.
What year did that open?
That was the Spanish place.
Mm-hmm.
Was 2002.
2002. Were tapas starting to get popular back then?
They were, of course, on the East Coast and West Coast. But for the Midwest, no, not really.
Right. I hadn't thought about that. I was sitting there thinking, were tapas popular back then?
In the Midwest, they were like topless. I'm like, no, tapas. You know? And no, you don't get chips and salsa.
That's right. That's right. I'm sure it picked up some steam though, because tapas it's always a great place to take a date because they're all small plates. You can share them. And that way, if you've got one of those dates that's like, I'm trying to decide between the steak and the lobster. Well, now you can just get a spoonful of each.
That's right. That's the way I like to eat too. I mean, I don't like just to have a big plate of one thing. You know, I like to have a little fish, a little piece of meat, some vegetables. I think that's the way to eat. Mm-hmm.
Did you have any say in what the concept of this place was going to be since you were running it?
No. Again, Mike just he'd get an idea in his head and he'd have to get it open. So
that's interesting. So you've kind of learned that your buddy Mike has some good ideas.
Oh yeah. He's really good at developing concepts. And then he just kind of throws me in there and goes, figure it out.
Well, hey, that's got to say a lot about you though, because for someone like that to entrust you with their concept, I mean, that's a pretty big deal in and of itself.
Yeah. Right. And it's cool because it's, you know, that's what I love to do. It's a challenge and, you know, I love making good food and making people happy. That's kind of why I do it.
Yeah. And I like the name too, Bar, with bold letters, BAR, BARcelona.
Yep. BARcelona.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this was a little bit of like a cocktails and tapas kind of a thing going on?
Yeah, it was cool. It was, you know, open kitchen. You're in the dining room. You're interacting with customers, kicking out small plates, and it was fun.
It sounds like it was pretty small. Do you know how many seats there were?
It started off small. We actually expanded it twice.
Oh.
So, yeah, it got to be a pretty big place. But, yeah, it started as a little shotgun bar restaurant, probably 35, 40 seats.
Wow, that is small.
And then I think by the end, you know, with the patio and everything, probably fit 150.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so it grew. I mean, it was definitely one of the most popular spots in town.
That's pretty wild, man. How do you keep up with that? I mean, I got to be honest, from an outsider's perspective, I'm looking at a tapas restaurant that is just cranking this stuff out as hard and as fast as they can go to, I don't know, 300, 400 patrons a night. I'm just sitting there going, logistically, how are you making the small portions and keeping it fresh, right? And not skimping on it.
Well, in that place, it was all about being prepared and having your mise en place. And I mean, if you weren't ready for service, you were going to drown, and it was going to be a terrible night. You had to have all your ducks in a row.
You saying that you could drown, is that you talking from experience?
Oh yeah. Oh, it's happened. Yeah.
Oh no. I
mean, it happens to everybody, and it's not pretty, but things always happen in the restaurant business.
That is a fact.
Your deliveries don't come in on time, or you're shorthanded, or a piece of equipment breaks, or it's always something.
Can you think of, because you worked there for 10 years, I'm sure you have kind of a best night you ever had and a worst night you ever had there.
Yeah. We don't talk about the worst one. No. Yeah.
All right, we'll stick with the best one. What's a really good memory you have from working at BARcelona?
Oh man, I have so many of them. I don't know. Just everyone's, it starts getting late at night. The place is packed. People are in there dancing and having a good time, and everyone's a little bit drunk, and everyone's just having a good time. Those are the fun nights. No hiccups in the kitchen. Everything goes out smooth.
And you're just feeling the vibe from the customers? Yeah,
because you're a part of it. You're out there. It's an open kitchen, so you're out there. People are talking to you while you're cooking, and it was pretty cool.
You ever have to break any bar fights?
Oh, yeah, a couple. I've had to throw a few people out, yeah.
Did you have to physically throw them out? Like were you the kind of chef where you came around the counter and...
Yeah, that happened a few times.
That is super funny.
Some customer got handsy with the waitress or was fall down drunk, and you had to show them the door.
Well, those situations would not be funny in the moment, I'll tell you that. I think I would have been quite entertained watching you throw somebody out, though.
Yeah, it's happened a few times, but nobody got hurt, so it's all good.
Nice. Is BARcelona still around?
Still there, yeah.
Nice, dude. That has to make you feel pretty good. I mean, you started the thing up, you worked there for 10 years, and it's still rocking and rolling.
It's still rolling. Also opened one in Indianapolis, and that one is not still there. That one was there for 10 years also, but that's no longer there.
Mm-hmm. So let's see here, the one that you opened in, where was the first one? St. Louis, right?
Yeah, in Clayton.
Okay, yeah. So that one's still there.
Yeah, a little suburb of St. Louis. So
then at a certain point, am I correct in assuming that your buddy said, "Hey, I have another concept"?
That's pretty much what happened.
And that concept is where you're at now, Sugarfire Smoke House. Sugarfire
has been probably the most successful thing. It is the most successful thing we've ever done. It took off.
I really like and appreciate that you're doing the smokehouse, man, because I'm a big barbecue proponent. Let me just put it that way. Like, barbecue is a big deal for me. I've done a couple of competitions. Whenever my friends come over, they're always just like, "What are we eating?" Just kidding. Make me ribs and pulled pork.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, we do some of the big competitions. Kansas City Royal, Memphis in May, and then some local ones.
The Royal, man. I had a buddy that went there. He cannot stop talking about it and can't wait to go back. He's dying to bring me out there, and I'm going to try to make it happen at some point. I don't know if it's going to be this year, but I keep hearing so much about the KC Royal.
Well, you should do it at least once. It's insane, but it's so big. I mean, there's over 700 teams, I think, last year. It's huge.
Holy crap.
Yeah. And Memphis in May is a good time too.
Oh, Memphis in May?
Yeah, that's more of a party.
Yeah. Those are always the best, right?
Oh, yeah. They get a little crazy.
See, I've never done the sleepover barbecue competitions, if I'm honest. I've done the ones where you're starting at like 4 a.m., but I've never pitched a tent up or slept in the truck overnight. Yeah.
Well, I mean, for this one, you got to set up a whole camp. I mean, you're there, and then you throw a party. Everyone throws a party. There's a competition for best party, best tent, or best camp, whatever. It's pretty crazy.
It is encouraged to party.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What do you guys normally set up? Are you trying to win any of those ancillary things, or are you just kind of focused on the task?
You know what? That's where we have the most luck. We got first place in seafood one year, and then we've won a bunch of ancillary things. I think in both in Memphis and Kansas City Royal, but never the big one like whole hog or brisket.
Yeah, those ones, I do kind of feel like a lot of times it comes down to the judges. I don't want to say that in a demeaning way. It's just when you start seeing the same people win over and over when it comes
I was just going to say that it's the same guys win that thing every year.
Right.
But, oh, well.
I don't know. It takes away from the competition in some ways. I mean, with that case, I would probably be happy to pull up like a second or a third just because it's gotten down to such a precision science.
Yeah. Oh, if you get a top 10, I mean, that's incredible. You know, that's amazing. You get a top 10 in anything.
Well, yeah, that's a good point, especially at a bigger competition like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many people there.
Yeah, that's a good point. You have to keep your eyes on that. And with those bigger ones, do they start doing the money at 10th place or is it even lower than that?
I think they do. I can't remember.
It wouldn't surprise me.
I think it's 1 through 3rd place is where the money is.
Ooh, just 1 through 3rd. Ooh.
I think so. I don't quote me on that, but
that's a big, expensive competition.
And again, the money is not like World Food Championships. I think that's probably the biggest payday competition that I know of.
With you guys doing all these barbecue competitions, it is kind of surprising to me that you haven't done the competition barbecue at the WFC.
Yeah, I don't know. We just rose in burger, bacon, I guess, and now sandwich.
I mean, you're there. It doesn't really matter how you got there as long as you're there and competing.
Right.
Yeah, it's just surprising to me to hear you talk about all this barbecue competition that you guys do. What do you use when you are off on the competition circuit when you're smoking?
We've got a bunch of trailers and they have smokers on them, and we wind up hauling those all over the country. Are
they commercial smokers or are they little personal ones?
No, they're commercial. We use Old Hickory pits.
Ah, Old Hickory. Yes.
Yeah. So we have a really good relationship with those guys. And they're always doing nice stuff for us. And they've got awesome smokers. That's what we use in all of our stores.
Yeah, man. Boy, those Old Hickories are hard to beat.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of smokehouse people talking about their big Old Hickory smokers. Now, this is just purely a question for me. I have had a couple of bigger names in barbecue that have conceptual restaurants talk about how their Old Hickory smokers, they season them with specific woods, and like they'll have one Old Hickory that runs apple wood strictly and another one that runs pecan wood strictly. Do you subscribe to any of that?
For what we do, we use hickory and cherry. Mm-hmm. But yeah, some guys, if you have a smoker dedicated to, salmon, yeah, you're going to use a specific type of wood in there. I mean, it's just whatever application you're using it for. Sure.
Do you guys ever rotate from the hickory and the cherry, or is that your standard mix?
That's our standard. If we're doing something, specialty or doing something cool as a special, we might switch up the wood depending on what we're doing.
Sure.
And what's available.
I find my combination typically is pecan and cherry.
Yeah.
I haven't really broken into the hickory too much.
Well, we do the hickory because it burns longer. It burns longer, keeps your temp up, and we do the cherry for the flavor.
Mm-hmm. And cherry for the color too, right?
And for color, yeah. That means great on ribs.
Yes. Yeah, I've heard that a lot from competition guys. At the very least, finishing with the cherry so that you get that color on the outside of your ribs.
Yeah, that red brick color. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's just different where you are. You go to Texas, they use a different kind of wood, and it's just kind of a regional thing, I think.
Right. It's all regional. The sauces are regional. The way you cook it is regional. I don't know about the temperatures, though. I keep finding people who are falling more into the hot and fast versus the long smoke stuff.
Yeah, we go slow and low, but a lot of people do the hot and fast, You know, so some of the big guys that win all the pulled pork competitions, they'll go hot and fast on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I don't feel like that's become a regional thing. I feel like there's really just a mix.
It's just a preference.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a regional thing either. I think it's just your preference, what works for you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But I would say slow and low.
So what do you typically do on your brisket? Are you low and slow like 10 hours or low and slow like 17 hours?
We go about 12 to 13 hours.
Mm-hmm.
225 degrees. Dry, just our house dry rub. That's it.
I dig it, man. I love that. Wrap or no wrap?
When it comes out, we wrap it.
But not while it's in the smoker?
No.
Perfect. Awesome. You know what? I'm really glad that you said that because it is time to end. And I think that was the perfect question to end on. David Molina, you've heard it here, 12 to 13 hours, hickory, cherry on your brisket. Don't wrap that thing. Let it develop a bark. Wrap it when it's done. Pack it for a little while. Let it come down. I love it, man.
Yep.
Thank you so much for talking to us. Once again, congratulations on the big win in 2018. Cannot wait to see what you do at the final table. It sounds to me like you are going to be very tough competition for those guys.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
And that was David Molina, everybody. Wow. Lots of information rolling around that guy's head. And can I just say, I really appreciate how well read he is. I don't think that that's emphasized enough in what we're doing and cooking in general and just in life in general. You know, I'm not going to sit here and claim that I read a whole bunch. I don't. I'm terrible about reading. But just hearing him talk about how much he reads and how on his game it has really put him, it makes me feel like, you know, that's something that I need to start making a goal. Maybe I should start writing that down on my goal list, like when I go to bed, instead of, you know, playing on my phone for half an hour before I go to sleep. I need to just pick up a book and start reading. And so I really appreciate that. And I also appreciate that he does not wrap his brisket, you guys. Don't wrap your briskets in aluminum foil halfway through the cook. That's not how you do it. Low and slow, roll that thing for 12 hours. I love all the information that he was able to lay down to us, and I really do think that he is going to be a tough competitor at the final table. It's going to be a very interesting time watching him and all of these folks competing there. It's very exciting. The more I get to talk to these folks and learn what makes them tick and talk to them about their experiences, the more I just feel like this is anybody's game. It really is. And of course, that game is the final table put on by the World Food Championships May 18th and 19th in New Orleans, Louisiana, at the New Orleans Culinary and Hospitality Institute. It is going to be an awesome time. I really am jealous to everyone that's able to go. And if you are in that area and you're able to go, I cannot stress this enough. It is going to be an incredible time, and you have to go and check that out. Also, you can check us out over at pardonmyfork.com. That's where you're going to find not just this episode, but all of the previous episodes, including all of our very special episodes with this year's final table competitors. So you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for telling a friend. For David, this is Andy, and we will see you next time.